Good evening, ladies and gents. This is the Elbow Style MotoGP podcast, the Thai Grand Prix review. I'm joined by Keelin. How are you doing, mate?
Jim, great to be back as always, mate. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah. What a weekend that was. Not saying
Yeah.
I'm not assuming. Well, I think a lot of us are assuming Mark would romp away with it. Me and Alex in the preview and predictions that I know you listen to. Alex successfully predicted that we'd see a Bez win in the main race. So there's a plug for Alex. He love that. I wasn't convinced. I thought Mark would win that, and we'll get to the move in the sprint in a minute. But yeah, a great weekend. Some surprises, good racing throughout all three classes, and we've got a hell of a championship on our hands. But yeah, I couldn't wait to watch it. But I didn't watch the Moto3, Moto2 quite live. Those of you who did, fair play. I'm not sure if I'll do it for Phillip Island as well. Yeah, they're early starts, but certainly watch the sprint race and the qualifying live and the Grand Prix. But what an event, Keelan! I think we better dive into it because a lot of people probably want to know every single different opinion that's out there on a podcast, whether it be YouTube or Spotify. The weekend will always be remembered, you could argue, by this move in the sprint, just by a Stewart's decision that a lot of people are saying actually ruined the race. Now, my argument straight away after I saw it was that I can see both sides here. I can see both sides because, yes, Pedro was able to carry on straight on and the one more lap was remaining. But this is me for this decision. He was off the track. He did have to sit up, and Pedro did tell the media in the media scrum there was contact. But people say he loves a good scrap, doesn't he? So why would you do that? He didn't mind. Like, you can't have separate rules for separate racing ethics in people's minds. I was torn because it was a great scrap, and Pedro would have done the same. I also understood completely Simon Crayfar's decision, frankly, because it is consistent with the decisions he's made last year. But I think I'm still torn. I thought I might have a clear idea of what I thought happened, what was fair, folks, but I'm still really torn. Stop the boredom of being on the fence that I'm creating here and pick a side because I'm on the fence.
Yeah, so before I get into this, I do want to make it very clear, although most people have probably seen it, in case you haven't, this is about as 50-50 a decision as you can probably get in MotoGP. It is right down the middle, and it's a decision that basically split the fan base right in two. And like you, I can see both sides of the argument. On one hand, you have the rubbing is racing, which it
Yeah.
absolutely is. And, nobody was hurt, nobody was injured, so there's really nothing to consider there. And a lot of people would rather the things had just played out the way that they were playing out. On the other hand, you do have, to his immense credit, you have Simon Crayfar's consistency in decision making since the beginning of last season. And this decision is right in line with his previous decisions that he's made. Now, I'm going to end the fence sitting here now because I've been very clear on which side of the fence I've been on. And I do believe it was absolutely the right decision to hand the win to Pedro Acosta. Now,
Right.
again, even though I've outlined that it's 50-50, I'll tell you why I think Crayfar got it right. The main reasoning for me is even though nobody got crashed out and there was no real major contact, you cannot just dive bomb from downtown and force another rider out wide. You especially can't do it on the last corner of the penultimate lap. And frankly, of anybody on the grid, Marc Marquez should know that by now better than anybody. You can't just steam up the inside from a mile out and then expect there not to be any punishment. Even though nobody got sort of crashed off the track or, anything like that, Pedro was still forced way off track. He still lost 2 or 3 seconds on what he would have had. And quite frankly, making Mark drop the position was the right decision. You can't just dive bomb and force somebody all the way off the track and then expect to keep the position that you gained. So for me, even though not a lot of people are going to agree with this, and even though Marc Marquez's fans are very upset at
I
it,
know
it
you're quite
was the
brave.
yeah, I know. I mean, it is what it is. I respect the passion if nothing else. But the thing is, and you've got to bear this in mind, it's the consistent decision, and in my opinion, it was the right decision. And where Simon Crafar deserves a lot of credit, in my view, is he's been very, very clear about what constitutes a punishment and what doesn't. And that consistency is what makes for a much better championship. So this decision, whether you agree with it or not, it's right in line with race directions thinking. And in my opinion, he got it right.
I think the consistency is massively important.
Mm,
Uh, there's been issues in the past, folks, where we've had the famous one is for me Jerez 2005, round one of the 2005 World Championship. Rossi and Gibernau had a fantastic battle going into the last two laps, and that last lap was incredible. Going into the last corner, Valentino isn't close enough and effectively used Sete as a brake and completely hit him. Sete goes into the gravel, and that was accepted. I mean, that is 21 years ago now, I know, but that wasn't fair. I do recall though, when I was I was what, 13 almost, or just turned 13. I was a Valentino fan, so I was like, yes, But looking back now, oh, that is a strong move, an extremely
yeah,
strong. I mean, that was way over the top. Now, um, you know, 7 years later, you've got Marquez did it to Jorge Lorenzo. Exactly the same move. It's exactly the same corner. Has been a repeat villain in this. He has done this before, but this was definitely one of the softer ones. Granted, but if Simon Crafar is making decisions that make sense because he's made similar ones last year throughout the classes, which he has, then fine. But the other thing that worries me, and this is again on the on the fence thing, is that if you keep doing this, does it put riders off entertaining race winning moves? Oh, I'll just settle for second because I'll only get a penalty. I mean, in the heat of the moment, I'm glad. I like to think proper racers won't do that. Although I do recall Brad Binder thinking that when I was there in Jerez 2023, going into the last corner in the Grand Prix, he was chasing Pecco Bagnaia for the win. Or was it for the sprint? No, the sprint. Yeah, it could have been for the sprint. No, it could have been for the Grand Prix, but he didn't go for the move. He wasn't close enough. But he said, I felt like going for the move, but I thought I'd get a penalty. And I don't want riders to have to think that. We want riders to have to go for these overtakes because this is what we all want. But this is the tough thing. This is why Simon Crafar had a very, very hard decision to make. Is it acceptable to outbrake yourself when you're probably about 2 or 3 bike lengths too far back to go for a move that makes the other rider completely sit up? And some tracks, there is still some tracks, folks, in the world where that runoff wouldn't have been tarmac and it'd have been beached in gravel. You need to remember that as well.
that is
It's
true.
it's quite it's a tough one, folks. It's tougher than we think. I think a lot of people need to realize that that was one of the best sprints ever. One of the best sprint races we've ever seen. And it's going to be overshadowed a little bit because of one move. It's all one decision. But we had about 4 or 5 overtakes for the lead between Bez and Mark before Bez took the front, and probably more than that when Pedro fought Mark for the win. All of that in the space of 12 laps. Absolutely outstanding. What MotoGP is back. Absolutely brilliant. That was superb. And for all we know, it could have been a 3-way battle because Bez might have not cleared off in the sprint. We'll never know. But back to the decision. I just hope it's consistent from now on, as long as riders aren't put off. Because if it wasn't consistent and Mark got away with this, you could see Moto3 riders going for sillier moves than they even ever have done before. Because Mark did it. Mark did it. Mark was able to get away with it. It's what it's that as well. It's showing young riders what is approved, what is accepted. Uh, I'm not sure Crafar was thinking that in the moment of his decision because he made it half a minute later. I am glad though, Keelin, that the decision was made before the race ended because
Yeah.
I think that was important. That was it, whether it be good or bad. Make it before the end of the race. So I
Yeah,
went on a bit of a tangent
absolutely.
then, but that was what I thought. That was a right decision to make it the
No,
decision before the end, whether it be good or bad, whether it be Mark gets away with it or not. But carry on, sorry, yeah.
no, yeah, I totally agree with everything you've said. And I think whether you agree with the decision or whether you don't, one thing you've got to give Simon Crafar credit for is the amount of clarity and courage that he's brought to the role. And again, I obviously think he made the right decision, which makes it all the better. But one thing that he has brought in, and one thing nobody can argue, is this is the line: if you cross it, you will be punished. And that's where I think Freddie Spencer started falling down terribly bad in the final few years of his serving in the role. There was too much dilly-dallying, there was too much being left till after the race, which made things even worse than it was. I think Crafar handled that as well as he could have. They're on track, let's get this dealt with now. Everybody knows where we stand. I thought he absolutely made the right decision there for sure. And the last thing I'll say about this, because we've got a lot of stuff to cover, in terms of putting riders off going for this stuff in the future, I really don't think it should. I think a lot of riders appreciate that there is a way to do that move, but not punt a rider off the track. This sort of stuff can absolutely be done without needing to be punished. You just have to time it right, not be 3 or 4 bike lengths behind, and use another rider as your brake because you can't get stopped. If you can deal with all of that, you should absolutely be going for race winning moves at the end of a race. Just don't do it the way Mark
Yeah.
did it. That was his fault, nobody else's.
Well, this is it. And I think a few other riders, I think Digia and maybe Fabio were supporting it. A few others, and but other riders were supported the decision. I think it made it sound worse the fact that Pedro was adding fuel to the flames by saying, "Well, I would have been fine with it. Yeah, it's fine." It's like, oh god. But people get confused on social media and start saying things like, "Well, Pedro was fine with it." It's like, yes, but he would have. Yeah, but he would have got the penalty as well. Yeah, what you're saying is like, yeah, but Pedro would have been. And Tardozzi saying that we don't understand the penalty because Pedro would have done the same. What does that mean? Yeah, Pedro would have got the penalty
Yeah,
then.
two wrongs don't make a right.
But you know, I don't think Patterson, not sort of Simon Patterson, who is responsible for some really good, in-depth Aprilia f-duct we'll talk about later. But Simon Crafar would have made the same decision and given the same penalty to Pedro Acosta. It's not exclusive for Mark because Mark's done it before. No, Crafar would have made the same decision before, unless people also mean that anyone would have made the move, therefore it's fine to have it as a rule to let it happen. That could be what they really mean. But rules are rules and they're consistent. If it was completely different decision from last year, then I'd probably be like, no, it's fair game because these riders got away with it last year and they didn't. So it's consistent. So fair play to Simon Crowfar and fair play for having the balls to do that because I can still see both sides because we love pure races, and that was very pure, very very pure, and it's good. I was really happy that happened as the first race, not someone romping off because it gets the audience interested early on in the season, and that's massively important. But yeah, I think we've covered that subject.
I think we've covered it pretty decently. Yeah.
Off piece, just a second. With this track, Buriram, I'm going to ask this one now to you. Do you think someone else brought this up on TV? And I thought, actually, yeah, I do love this round because it's created great races before. But I think, in my opinion, I prefer round one being at Qatar under the lights still. And this would be better in a tenser part of the championship if it's a head to head situation later on in the season. As a championship starts to heat up. I don't know if that makes any sense, folks, but
No,
I
it
like
does.
this.
It makes sense.
I like this race when it was further on into the year. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I'm really glad you brought this up because I saw the same opinion online earlier in the week, and I really like the thinking. First of all, who doesn't love a season opener under the lights? It's why Qatar is one of my favorite races because night races are incredible. I think we should have much more of them, by the way, because the atmosphere and everything is just brilliant. But I also really like the thought for that other reason, having a real X factor track like Buriram later in the season where it's less predictable and it's sort of hotter both metaphorically and physically. I think that adds another layer of intensity to the championship
Uh,
rather than going to an X factor track first and then getting it out of the way. So I really like that. And if it were up to me, I would definitely have Thailand later in the season because I think it would just build to the atmosphere of the championship so much more to have a track like that later on. I think that would be brilliant. By the way,
yeah,
shout out to
yeah,
Thai fans because they are incredible.
yeah. You're awesome. They're awesome. They are. If we have a few the tire listers actually, but last time I looked, checked some analytics. So yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And that's another reason for having it though. To be honest, like a good crowd on race day, just under 100,000, fantastic, absolutely outstanding. I love the enthusiasm as well. Really like it. I really, really do love that. So yeah, I mean, great round, and I'm glad it's staying for another 5 years, and which was obviously announced a couple of months ago. But that's really, really good news because it is a good. It's a fairly simple track. You know, all the grandstands are more or less on the outside. There's no, yeah, it's all on the outside of the track, isn't it? There's no infield grandstands or anything like that, but you can still get an awful lot of people in. So yeah, I'm glad it's staying, but I would be definitely open for it to be the penultimate or one of the last 5 rounds again. I'd be open. I'd definitely up for that. So
Yeah, I'm sick.
we'll
I'm
see.
sick of Valencia deciding a championship because Valencia is a crap track. Let's change it up a bit. Let's go to somewhere like Thailand to end the season. That's a brilliant
Thailand would
idea.
be a good end to the season. Yeah, the thing is, it's a traditional one, isn't it? I know a lot of the teams are based there, and it's a party Grand Prix, and it sells out. Absolutely sells out every year. There's Valencia. And they can stay there 2 days later for the test. They could do a test at Thailand, to be fair. Very good point. And they'd probably learn more from the bike as well than
Yeah.
Valencia, and be the temperatures. The temperatures will be good. They're not waiting till noon to get some, half decent time. So, yeah, that's not a bad call actually for the last race. Um, but yeah, but that's going to another realm as well. Bitching about Valencia being a shit track. I've been there 3 times. A great event, but a shit track. But we'll cover that another day. Um, who impressed you the most over the weekend?
I think for me, not just the rider, but the team that impressed me the most was Trackhouse. Iagora
Yeah,
and Raul Fernandez were both absolutely stellar all weekend. I think, if I'm not wrong, somebody correct me if I am wrong, I think they were both in the top 5 in both the sprint and the main race, which, if that is what it was unbelievable progress for those two. Iagora, we know he's a really good solid rider anyway. He had a fantastic weekend. And Raul Fernandez really continues to show the growth and development that started last year. So I have to say, those
mm,
two really, really impress me. And to be honest, as a fan, as just a wider fan of the sport, I really hope they continue to impress because a Trackhouse team that's doing well is nothing but good for the championship. But to answer
yeah.
your question, Agura and Fernandez impressed me the most, I think, apart from the obvious Marco Bezzecchi.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Chapeau to the Trackhouse, a brilliant team. I think they did incredibly well.
Yeah.
The new Aprilia is an absolute weapon as well, and it is a bit of an Aprilia track. Bear in mind, folks, in the top 5 in the Grand Prix race, 4 of the 5 bikes in the top 5 were Aprilias. That's
I mean, what
insane.
does that tell you?
I mean, in the Grand Prix, I know Mark obviously had a puncture because obviously the rim hit the curb, but regardless, things happen. The top Ducati, you can't believe this, was 6th in the race, and that's Digia. I tweeted that earlier on. I was like, wow. The top Ducati
I-
in the championship is Digia. I think
I-
it's P7. I mean, that's
I-
insane. I mean, it will change.
88, 88 consecutive podiums gone.
Yes. Yeah. 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 I mean, it's incredible, really. I mean, obviously, they've got some new innovation. We'll talk about this now, actually. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. My biggest surprise, I was most impressed with Pedro Acosta, considering where the KTM's at, unless it's improved and they were hiding things. That's who impressed me most over the weekend, considering that bike isn't there as much as the KTM, probably still the Ducati. So Pedro Costa, I think impressed me the most, and he leads the World Championship for the first time. And believe that's the first time KTM lead the World Championship in the history of their participation in the Premier Class. So yeah,
Yep.
Pedro Costa for me. But the Aprilia, reeling out F1 style, f-duct, aero, and technology. Keelan, take us through it.
Okay, so before I get into this, I want to apologize to anybody who wrote the real thing and I screwed this up royally, so I'm going to try and do the best that I can. Essentially what Aprilia have done is they found a very, very clever workaround in the MotoGP aero regulations. And what they've done is they've basically created a duct in the top of the bike's fairing that can be either activated or deactivated by the rider's forearm. So what
Yeah,
they're doing is they're consciously manipulating aero, but they're not using a mechanical device to do it. They're using a
yeah,
rider's natural motion, which is why it
yeah,
can't be banned. It's pretty genius if you think about it. And
yeah.
essentially what it does is this. I think it was McLaren and F that
That's right.
introduced it back in the day, and this
2010,
is where the
2011, 2010. Yeah, because I remember they having to use their finger to block it.
exactly,
Whereas,
yeah.
yeah, whereas as you say, this is not unsafe. This is the rider's natural stance when he's tucked in. The forearm's going to be blocking the exit of this f-duct. It's genius. And
Yeah.
it's so it looks. I mean, the idea now it's like, oh yeah, why didn't anyone else think of that before? And because
Yeah.
it's not unsafe and it's probably not expensive either. It's just an outlet, really. Obviously, funneling through for the front of the fairing. Brilliant, genius,
Yeah.
and
It's
it's
really,
going to
really clever.
be hard for Dorna, sorry, the F. Well, I guess Liberty aren't involved in that, but the FIM probably won't ban it because it isn't really. It's not unsafe, and it's. I mean, I don't know if it's just that that's. I don't think it's that that's given them this massive performance gain to put 4 bikes in top 5. It was a bit of an Aprilia track last year, although I agree it wasn't as fast as he was last year. I mean, P4 in the race, he got beaten by his teammate. It doesn't matter. Aprilia track. But we'll see. Obviously, people keep saying we won't know really how fast they are till we get to Jerez. I'm thinking, I get that, but we test as much at Buriram now as we do at Jerez. We've got as much data. They've probably got as much data. Every race counts. The 37 points are at grabs at each race. I think that's bollocks saying you get a clearer picture when you go to more races anyway. By the time we get to Jerez, it's going to be round 5. It used to be round 1, but yes, we'll know maybe more. But to be honest, we test here, and we've been going since 2018. There's enough data. We know enough. We're getting Aprilia is becoming one of those bikes now, Keelin, that is good almost anywhere. If you
Yep.
look where, yeah, almost any track, frankly. Maybe it's still hampered a bit on the straights to a degree. So Magello, maybe not. That wasn't exactly one of their strongest points last year. But there's always going to be bogey tracks unless you're on a Ducati, which is 2 years old. What Ducati is using, so fair play to Aprilia, and that is really innovative. I love that sort of thing, and you know what? I was happy to see even the old school blokes and girls still liking that idea. I think I thought a lot of people might say, "Oh, too much F1 tech, or too much aero." It's probably because it doesn't look awful. But I love that. It just reminds you that this is this is the 2-wheel Formula One. So yeah, fair play, and I've got a feeling that if they can get away with it, I'm not sure if they can. I'm not sure anyone can copy that because of the homologated fairings
Yep.
in season. I mean, so I mean, obviously everyone will be copying it for their 27 bike. They'd be stupid not to, wouldn't they? Really? But yeah, it was an impressive thing to see, and I'm pleased
Yeah.
that it's gonna make it harder for Mark this year. But moving on from that, because Mark will be back, folks, he will be back. Is he going to be stronger soon, Keelan, under cooler temperatures when he's his shoulder's going to be under less strain? Uh, and we get, I mean, Mark's been strong here before. Was he? He was trying to slow up the race at the sprint. You could see that visually. He's trying to slow up the sprint pace. Well, I mean, surely he's going to be winning soon, right? Surely.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to be winning soon. There's no doubt about that in my mind whatsoever. And the reason there's no doubt in my mind is A, he's the reigning world champion, and B, he, in terms of pure talent, he's still the best rider in the MotoGP
Yeah.
grid
Yeah.
by something of a considerable distance. But bear this in mind as well, folks, because
Ooh.
there's a flip side to every coin. Yes, Marquez is going to be better in cooler temperatures, but so's everybody else. Bear
Yeah.
in mind here,
Uh,
every rider had to deal with that heat at the weekend. Everybody else is going to be better when it's the cooler temperatures of Europe too. And that's why this season's so fascinating. What is going to make the difference this year? Is it going to be talent? Is it going to be the bike? Is it going to be some combination of the two? Could it be the temperature in the atmosphere? We'll just have to see and find out. But listen, be under no doubt at all, Marc Marquez is going to win at the Saxon Ring. He's going to win at a whole bunch. He's going to win at a whole bunch of other places,
yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
he's going to be fighting like hell to retain his championship. But I think everybody's going to be better. And when we sort of move into different temperatures, the other riders are going to be a lot better too. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he'll probably win at Kota as well, let's be
Oh,
honest.
yeah, probably.
Yeah. So, no, I agree. He'll be back fast. I mean, I think I meant really more the temperatures. Yes, it's the same for everyone, but obviously if his shoulder's been playing up, his arm's been playing up, then maybe that's why. But there we are. Mark will be back very, 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 very well. Well, Guyana next in Brazil. No one that's a right-handed track. It's not a specialist left-hand corner circuit that in Brazil. So Mark's not really going to have an obvious advantage going into the new track, is it?
No, it's
Um,
pretty neutral.
yeah, yeah, it is. If you look at the track map, folks, it is quite neutral. But follow their Instagram as well, folks. Brazilian MotoGP Instagram page. That's worth a follow because it's quite cool if you like the sort of we're building a track and it's nearly finished sort of thing. Posts they're doing loads of those, but that's the next race. Um, we pretty much covered everything for the MotoGP class, apart from some standouts. I thought Honda would do better, but they still did quite well. I mean, truthfully, I think Honda did quite well considering. Um, I mean, I know Amir still didn't finish. I thought, for goodness sake, oh dear, not again. So yeah, Amir did not finish, but we still had Marini in 10th and 11th, with Zarka finishing 11th. I don't think it'll be their best result. I think they've got a lot more to come. The new generation of Hondas haven't done too well here anyway, frankly. I still stand by it. The bigging up I gave Honda in the preseason. I do still stand by, though, that they are lacking a superstar. But we've spoken about that. We'll get to that when something's announced soon. So Honda I was a little bit disappointed with, but it's not the end of the world. Shout out to Diego Moreira, who um, we were saying he didn't have the best preseason. I thought he'd do a little bit more, but maybe he was just playing safe. But P13 in the race points on his debut, beating Fabio Quartararo, Rins, Vinales, Toprak, Miller, and Pirro. Not bad. You could argue that the V4 Yamaha almost doesn't count if you really want to be a bastard, but those are still some great names. And to be honest, Vinales ought to be beating Morera. Would you not agree? I mean, that's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I definitely
Bastianini only just beat him.
yeah, I definitely would agree with that. I mean, first of all, if I was Yamaha, I'd be using the Tuk Tuk instead of that V4M1 because that thing's going backwards at a
I
rate of
know.
knots on the track.
Yeah,
Listen,
no.
Diogo Moreira should be so damn proud of himself. It doesn't matter if it's P13, it's P10, or it's P7. To get points in your MotoGP debut as a rookie from Moto2, that is no mean feat, and he should be very proud of what he's achieved on a still developing package in the Honda. And to beat Fabio Quartararo, to beat Alex Rins, to beat Toprak, these are big names. I mean,
Yeah,
okay, they're not on
yeah,
great bikes, I give you that,
yeah,
but these
yeah,
are still some of the bigger names in the championship, and he should be
yeah,
very proud of himself for being a point scorer in his
yeah,
first ever weekend in MotoGP.
yeah.
I really cannot wait to see what Diogo Moreira's career in MotoGP becomes because I think he's a future star of the championship.
Yeah, yes, yeah, yeah, he is. And I did see some great shots of him following Mark as well
Yeah.
in practice. Did you see those shots? I thought, yeah,
Did you see
yeah,
Did you see his two legs in the air when he was braking?
yeah, 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 yeah. Was that not Mia? Oh, that was Mia. Was it? There was another one
Was
where I think there was another one where Mia was following Mark as well. That might be it. That's maybe a different shot, actually. Yeah, but yeah, there was. He's extremely good on the brakes. He's
very good
Diogo,
in the brakes.
and he's only going to get faster. And as I keep tooting the horn of Honda, it's a good package to be on. As it's only getting faster. It's like Aprilia. It's only getting quicker. So yeah, he's in good hands. He'll be fine. And it's his home race in 3 weeks' time. No, nearly just over 2 weeks' time. So yeah, Diogo is. I mean, that'll be interesting actually because just as he's getting to grips with the bike, no one else is going to have an advantage knowing the track on a MotoGP bike. So that'll be interesting, folks. I'm looking forward to that. It might mean it's even slower. We'll have to see. But yeah, shout out to Diogo because truthfully, I did think a few of those names we just mentioned would have beaten him. Who else you want to talk about, Keelan? Have we covered everyone in MotoGP before he goes Moto2?
I really don't think there's much more to talk about in MotoGP, to be honest. I think we've hit on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
The only
Apart
thing I
from
wanted to say,
Des, maybe.
yeah, yeah, I mean, Marco Bezzecchi, rider of the weekend, in my opinion, I think he was just brilliant. Unfortunate crashing out in the sprint, of course,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think he's going to be such a dangerous contender for the title. He looks so in harmony and in simpatico in that Aprilia. I think he's just a brilliant rider, and I think he's on an even better package. So credit to him for carrying on the momentum from last year. And I think him, Massimo Rivola, and Aprilia should be very proud of the work that they're doing. I just think they're doing
Yeah.
really, really well. The
Yeah.
only thing I want to say before we go on to Moto2 is shout out Dorna in disguise for the tuk tuk race, because that was the best piece of content I have seen from Dorna in so many years I can't even
Yeah.
remember. I was laughing my ass off from beginning to end, and it was amazing. So very, very well done to whoever put that together, because that was
Yeah.
so much fun. And it might be the only thing Yamaha win this year, so fair play.
Top Rat was loving it, wasn't he? And Jack, yeah, yeah, yeah. So no, that was great, and that was better than having a ride parade. Although the fans that have got T-shirts might disagree, but yeah. And to be honest, folks, I think you can do things like this, or the rider parade, and you can still have Moto2, Moto3 warm up if the schedule started a bit earlier in the morning. If you started it 30 minutes earlier, well, okay, maybe an hour earlier, you could still have Moto2, Moto3 warm up and the rider parade or a tuk tuk race, depending on obviously different cultures, different countries might not have a tuk tuk in every race. It might be something completely different in Silverstone if they did that. But yeah, no, I agree. That was great. Some people don't like that gimmicky sort of thing. I get where you're coming from, but just cheer up because that was hilarious. Yeah, great. Great filler between the schedule. Fantastic. I thought that was a nice
Also,
breath of fresh air as well. Yeah,
I
go on.
would rather have I'd rather have a tuk tuk championship than a Harley bagger championship. So you can quote me on that on the record. I'll take that over baggers any day of the week.
Yeah. Well, the baggers, I think I've told you my opinion on that, haven't I? If anyone doesn't know, I don't get why it's in the Premier. It's in the top. It's a support race of the highest category of two wheels. I don't get it. I think I made the analogy before of having baggers in MotoGP is like Formula One having a Volvo V70 support series. They
That's
wouldn't do
exactly
it.
what it's like.
Because obviously baggers, obviously, a real bagger is something that you bring, you get your tent and all your things, and you can go camping. You take a load of things with you, and a state car is almost an equivalent, if you like. So the Volvo V70 Estate Cup is joining the Formula One World Championship at selected rounds. No, 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 no. It might be fun, and I'm sure the racing will be fun, but no, not for me. I see what the idea was, but no. And you got me on a rant there. Nice one, Keelan. Good job. Yeah.
It's what the
So
people want. The people want to see it.
do they?
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Not enough. Well, not enough comments about that yet. But Brad Binder, by the way, doing his Brad things. Cheeky seventh, right, in the Grand Prix, and a cheeky sixth in the sprint. That's just the most Brad thing ever, isn't it? Good points in both races and healthily just up there. Also, Jorge Martin is someone we haven't spoken about. I'm really impressed with him, and he's going to be a dark horse this year. I did mention that last week, actually. If I'm honest, I don't know if I'd have predicted him being fourth in the race, so fair play. Who else? Becca Bagnaia ninth from where he started. Before we move on, oh no, we keep saying before we move on, folks, but we can't not talk about Pekka Bagnaia. We just can't. Now, I did. I also predicted he'd do well this weekend. When's it going to happen? Is it going to happen, or has he already lost the mind with Ducati and he's already thinking about pastures new?
I mean, I gotta be honest, and bear in mind this is just my opinion. I have less than no insight into what Pecco Bagnaia is gonna do. I think, to be honest with Pecco, he's just hoping he gets a move to Aprilia now, because he kind of reminds me of the meme of Apu from The Simpsons where he says, "Ha, now you know how it feels. Anybody under the age of 40, you'll probably understand what I'm talking about." now everybody sees what he's been struggling with. This
Mm.
front end that has no confidence whatsoever. And he's probably thinking, I have had enough of this. Just to be honest, the happiest I've seen Pecco in a year was when he was on the tuk-tuk. That's the last time I've seen Pecco happy in MotoGP. He just looks so unhappy on that bike because he can't get to grips with it. Now, that being said, P9 in both races is still relatively decent for him, but
Mm.
he's still getting outperformed by other Ducatis, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, I do. I do think it needs to be mentioned that apparently the bike was in a complete wrong setup for qualifying because he thought it was going to rain, so the bike was set up for rain. He took a gamble. If that's true, then that was a massive oversight. So we have factory engineers, for goodness sake. That's a silly mistake to make. Would we have seen something else in the races? We'll never know, folks. Pecco could have got on the podium in both races if he hadn't. If it just you can't do that forever. And if this continues into the races, then yeah, we're clutching at straws, frankly. But of course, round one, it's not the end of the world. And look, 2 top 10s really, considering where he was last year mentally, a lot of races. He finished both races, so yeah, I'm sure he's optimistic because he meant what he said about the bike feeling better. I'm just sure he's probably happy to get out of Thailand and have an agreement with the team that says, look, let's not mess around with setups. And if he gets the deal done, I still believe that he will be he'll actually be faster. Just think, well, I'm leaving anyway, and I could make Ducati look really daft for not wanting to renew me and having Pedro Costa. It could be. It could be a. I don't think he'll be shit if he goes to Aprilia and it's confirmed, and he thinks, well, it doesn't matter what I do now because I'm going to Aprilia. I think he'll be faster because I think the natural instinct of a human or an athlete would be to, well, fuck you guys then. Watch this. Now I've got this ride. Watch this. Watch what I can do on this bike. Told you, DG. I told you, GG. This is what I can do. Now you've given me what I asked for. This is what I can do. I'm going, by the way. Uh,
Hmm.
but we'll see. There's certain races Pecco is always strong, so we'll look forward to those. But we said that last year. We said that last year. Wait to Mugello. Wait to Jerez. But yeah, we'll see. I really want him to do well, Keelan, because it's important for Pecco to be fast in this championship, I think, now.
Yeah,
But
it,
we'll
it
see.
is for sure. It is absolutely. And I've always been a Pecco Bagnaia fan.
Yeah.
And even though he was sort of groomed and raised to be a Ducati rider, I still think he's a very likable rider. I think I mean, he's a two-time MotoGP world champion, so of course he's a bloody talented rider. But ever since Marc Marquez has come into the factory team, he just has not been the same rider, and it's absolutely blown his confidence to pieces. Anybody can see that. But I really think a new start for Pecco Bagnaia would be the best thing for him, whether it's Aprilia or whether it's elsewhere. I
Mm,
think we need to see the old Pecco back, and that only comes from getting a new beginning.
mm.
That's why I hope he gets the Aprilia seat, because I think he gets on really well with Marco Bezzecchi. It's another Italian team, so he's got there's no real issues there. And I think he'd be on the best package in MotoGP, so he's going to be fast as well, and he's going to have the
Oh,
confidence
yeah.
that the rider across from him's not trying to destroy him. So I think a move for Pecco, I think a move for Pecco would be the best thing he
Yeah.
could do.
Yeah. Yeah, I do as well. And as Max Biaggi would say, you're going to a real Italian team. um, but no, I think it'd be healthy for him. I am wondering. I'm pretty sure the whole paddock was telling everyone, and we were all convinced that we were going to get all these announcements before the end of the week. Nothing happened.
Yeah,
What
funny
happened there,
that.
folks? We got no announcements before the Friday of practice, and let's be honest, we were all kind of expecting it because we were all told so. Something stopped. Someone's bailing out of something. Marquez could be at the helm of this, trying to get saying, "No, I want a 1 year deal. I'm in pain. I'm sick of this." It could be that stalling everyone else. People who want 2 year deals. I've no idea. Of course, I have no idea. I mean, most people in the paddock will have no idea. There was some speculation that there's reasons behind 2027 rules. People backing out, not knowing the progress of another manufacturer's rule, the bike, but it is a shot in the dark for everyone. Massive shot in the dark for everyone. But yeah, well, I still think we'll get some early announcements. The weird thing is we've got Pedro Acosta now, you know, podium and a sprint win and leading the championship for a manufacturer he is all but confirmed to leave. So, like, really? Are you sad about that?
Am I sad that Pedro's leaving?
Do you not think that the whole thing about one superstar per manufacturer is what should happen? Are you sad that I mean, we do get the whole two number ones in a team drama, which will be incredibly exciting. But do you not think again it's like you're two superstars in one team, and then you argue that KTM lose Acosta to Alex Marquez? Think Alex is great, but he's no superstar. Do you not think it's bad for the manufacturers having a lot of superstars? Do you not think it's bad in that way, or are you still like, yes, Pedro to a Ducati is what we need?
No, I definitely subscribe to the theory of multiple superstars per outfit and per manufacturer because I think it makes the best championship. Like if you think about this logically, back in like different times during the Alien era, you'd have Rossi at Yamaha, Pedrosa at Honda, Stoner at Ducati,
Yeah,
and you'd
yeah,
have like
exactly. Yeah,
you'd have 3 or 4 different megastars per manufacturer.
yeah,
And I think it makes for a better championship the more diverse the championship is. But the problem is with the nature of MotoGP nowadays, riders, rightly or wrongly, depending on whether you agree or disagree with them, riders aren't interested in waiting around until
no,
manufacturers pull their fingers out. So you've either got to come correct straight away or throw a boatload of money at them so they don't leave immediately. Case in point, Fabio Quartararo and Yamaha. But even now, it's getting to a point where money isn't enough anymore. We know Fabio Quartararo wants out of Yamaha because he's given them 2 or 3 of the best years of his career, and they still haven't managed to fix the bike from when Rossi had problems with it.
mm,
And you're seeing that now with Pedro Acosta. Yes, on occasion he will be the best rider across a weekend, but on the whole, it's still probably nowhere near a consistent enough bike to be regularly competing at the front. And riders like Pedro Acosta and Fabio Quartararo and loads of other riders besides, they want the best bike and they want to be on the podium
yeah,
every weekend. And if you can't deliver that, then you are going to lose your best riders to Ducati and to Aprilia, probably now are in that vein as well. So
yeah,
I don't agree with it. As a fan, I'd love to see, one mega star per team. I think that would make the best championship. But being
yeah,
realistic, this is what
yeah,
it's
yeah.
going to be. That's just the way it is now.
Mm. Yeah, and they are. It is a bit of a cliche, but the best riders always end up on the best bike eventually. Or
Yeah, of course.
it's a bit of a cliche, but nine times out of ten, it works out like that, doesn't it? Really, um, unless you're Fabio Quartararo.
Yeah. Sitting on a
um,
boatload of money.
yeah, I mean, I know you're saying he's fed up with Yamaha, but at the same time, I think this time is different. The situation is completely more. It is more complex than that. When the bike's engine is different, you know, that level they haven't made a V Force, but yeah, it's a tough one. I think it's hard. It's too harsh to say that, but at the same time, Fabio would have known that this was their decision. And he stayed anyway. He had a 2 year deal. He couldn't really buy his way out of a 12 million euro deal. But yeah, I hope he goes to Honda now, because if he stays at Yamaha, um, I think he's wasting too many of his good years. Frankly, I know it's been cool to see him that loyal to Yamaha and accepting good money, but we need one of the best riders in the world to show his worth. So we'll see. We'll see how it is with Honda. We haven't even announced yet. That could be one of the reasons why it's not been everything's stalling. But yeah, we'll see what happens in the silly season for next year in the coming weeks. Before we go, folks, Moto2, Moto3. If you didn't watch it, then you bloody should have done. The Moto2 race was restarted twice, then ended up being a 7-lap sprint race, which actually, obviously necessary, folks. Don't get me wrong here. Let's just put that out there. But it was a bit of a shame because I think Daniel Holgado was a bit robbed because he was easily the better rider, strongest rider in the main race that had the most laps, and he was gone. He was in another league. And obviously, yeah, we've got riders that David Alonso, by the way, as we know, is fine. But the two restarts we had, we then saw a sprint race, and sounds like I'm taking something off Manuel Gonzalez, but at the same time, I don't think it was really on cars for him to win the race. Would you say I'm being a bit unfair there, Keelan? Because
No,
obviously what happened happened. I know, but
No, I think you're absolutely more than fair. And to be honest, if I was Danny Holgado or a part of Danny Holgado's team, I would be feeling robbed because he was the best rider across the weekend by a pretty considerable distance. And like
yeah,
you said,
yeah,
even after two restarts, he was dominating the race again by a pretty large margin. So
yeah,
he will definitely feel like he's been screwed out of a really, really good win. And I'm not saying he has been screwed out of a win, but I understand why he feels like he's been screwed out of a win. Because, how rare is it that you dominate a weekend from beginning to end in any motorsport? It just
yeah,
doesn't happen all
yeah.
that often.
Nah.
And yeah, he's right to be upset, but at the same time, you got to give credit to Manuel Gonzalez as well because you got to take your opportunities when they come and as you get them, and he did it. He probably it's a bit like if anybody likes pro wrestling, it's a little bit like a Money in the Bank cash in where you sort of steal the win and get out again. But whether you steal it or whether you dominate it, a win's a win, and Manu Gonzalez won. But I think Danny Delgado is going to have a very big say in this title race this year because he is absolutely top class.
So I was tooting the horn of Colin Vire in the preseason, and he brought it home P5. Solid start for him and Guevara, who won a race at the end of last year. P2. That was a good race between those two, between Gonzalez and Guevara. That's going to happen again this year. And it's not just going to happen between those two. You're going to have Guevara fighting for the win many times. He is looking good. He's looking really, really, really good. He's gelled with that bike and he gelled with the team. Izan Guevara is going to be one of the dark horses to get a MotoGP ride next year. I believe it. Especially, even if it's just a Yamaha ride, it's still a MotoGP ride. He's in the Pramac team. If they feel like he's ready and he's up for it, why not? I mean, who would it be? Would it be Jack that goes? We'll talk about that another day. But Guevara is in the hunt for one of the Moto2 riders to go up, and Holgado and Gonzalez, and of course David Lonzo. So watch out for Guevara because he's not just fighting to win his championship. He's probably thinking, I can show my worth here and I can get to MotoGP. Um, I wasn't really massively disappointed in anyone in Moto2 that I was looking out for, apart from Barry Baltus. He did get he didn't really have the perfect weekend. I expected more from Barry, but I do expect more from him as the season goes on. I don't know if you agree with that or not. But of course, Senna Aegis as well, who, yeah, got pole position very convincingly, and I thought he had a good shot at the win, but he will have more chances. What about you? What Moto2? What are your thoughts? Who stood out? Who disappointed you?
Yeah, I think what you said was a really perfect summary of the weekend as a whole for Moto 2. I was certainly not let down by any rider. I thought most of the grid gave a really good account of themselves on a track that's still a real X factor this early in the championship. I do think it's fair pointing out Barry Baltus and Senna Aegis because they showed a lot of promise and they did fall off a little bit towards the end, but I still don't think they were terrible or anything. I still think they were pretty solid. But I'm glad you shouted out Colin Vire. I was really, really impressed with. I mean, I'm a Colin Vire truther to begin with. I think he's a prodigious talent in Moto 2. And I think I think a lot like Izan Guevara, I think he's going to have a big say in where this title goes come the end of the season because I think he's obviously built for a bigger motorcycle, but I think he's going to have a tremendous impact in Moto 2. I'm a big, big Colin Vire fan.
Can you believe this is Zizan Guevara's fourth year in Moto2?
I
Fourth
know,
year.
it's hard to believe.
It's. I remember being before we started the podcast, about 6 months before. I was in the pit lane in Jerez, 2023, and I had a picture with him, and he wasn't off to a good start, and he barely could put a smile together. And his teammate was smiling, everything, and yeah, because that's when he'd just come back from being incredible in the 2022 Moto3 World Championship, one of the best champions ever. That season was brilliant.
Yeah, that's
Him versus
right.
Garcia, and Guevara now back. I'm happy for him because I think there was a lot of people saying he worked in the paddock that he isn't taking it too seriously. He's not taking it seriously enough. He could be more of a professional. He could do longer debriefs with his team. He's more bothered about his Instagram and whatnot and his girlfriend. But it looks like he's had a bit of a wake up call, and it would have, which is good because it would be a massive waste of talent. It's easy to forget some of these riders, folks. They go through the ranks. Fabio Quartararo is obviously easy to forget about because we know how good he is now. But
Yeah.
he should have won races in Moto3, and he didn't. He was that good in Junior GP, in the Spanish CEV, that they changed the rule for him. I remember this. I remember it being announced so that he could compete at the ridiculous age of 16, I think it was. They changed to 15. It was crazy how young he was because he was that good. He was just kicking ass so much, 2-year champion twice over in European Championships, Junior GP, sorry, that they had to change the rule because he had to move up because otherwise it would have just been a laughing stock in the CEV. But then he did nothing. He did he did the first year with the Monlau competition team with the Repsol squad with his Chalet sponsorship and all that.
Hmm.
And then he went to Leopard, chased some money, and then he just fell off the cliff. His form went nowhere. He was nowhere. Went to Leopard, went to Moto2, did nothing in Moto2, and then his second year in Moto2, it was at 2018, he started winning races, he started winning race 2, and he right time, right place. This is the thing, folks. We can't forget talent because people like Fabio and, by the looks of it, Izan Guevara will prove us wrong. And annoyingly, we are in a sport. You can say the same about any sport, really. You're as good as your last race, or you're as good as your last season. We're all guilty of assuming this of riders. We still do it today. But some riders will remind you who they are, and Guevara is going to end up being a favourite to the champion. I think he's going to be just as strong now. He's just as likely to be a champion as Holgado and Alonso, which is basically the two riders that everyone assumed was going to be favourites. And you're quite right. Although even though before he crashed, Alonso didn't have a great weekend, but he'll be there. But just watch out for Guevara, and hats off to him. I love a comeback story, and he's worked hard to get where he is, I would say. Rookies, before we finish on Moto3, rookies, we had not a bad showing, actually, over the weekend from Linetta, who was my favourite rookie, favourite for the top rookie, who didn't actually start the race, the second Moto2 race, or the third Moto2 race, if you like. But he had a good weekend. He'll be there. We had crashes from the likes of Rueda, also Pequeras. So yeah, the rookies weren't doing too well, but again, I think Lanetta showed his word the most over the rookies of the weekend. I think that's a fair statement. By the way, before we move on, Alex Escreed, what were we talking about him the other week? We were talking about Alex Escreed in testing, and, just like trying to get like a headline for the sponsor for the team, or get a sponsor and put a soft tire in and dominate testing on low fuel or whatever. And then he was the same in the practice. He did really, really well. It's just a shame that in the end he finished P12. But there's a long year ahead, and you were singing his praises, weren't you? As well.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
absolutely.
So 4 points for him. So there's a long season ahead. I think he can get on the podium if his form is that real. It's not just let's put no fuel in the tank and let's put a soft tire in. If it's not that, then yeah, watch out for Alex Escreed, which it was just someone we never expected to talk about being a contender for podiums, but we like to prove them wrong. Right, folks, Moto3, because this pod's gone on longer than we thought it would. Just love to talk about motorbike racing. Moto3, who stood out for you in that race?
Yeah, quite a few of the guys did. Before I hand it over to you, though, I am going to be very biased to my nationality, and I'm going to shout out my countryman Casey O'Gorman,
He did
P11,
very well. Very,
for
very
the
well.
for the CH58 squad.
Yeah.
Ireland doesn't get a lot of representation at these things. We don't get invited very often, so you got to take advantage of it when you're doing well. And I'm a big, big Casey O'Gorman fan. I'm delighted to see him get a pretty solid start to the season, and I really hope he can do something good in this championship because he's had a really, really great squad. Obviously, it's heartbreaking. Noah Detweiler should be there, but he obviously suffered a
Yeah.
horrendous
Yeah.
injury last
Yeah.
season. But I think Casey's going to do a brilliant job deputizing, and I hope he does Paolo Simoncelli proud, which I'm sure he will.
Yeah, I think he already is. Casey's doing really, really well. He's consistent, and he's beaten Ogden, Cruises, Kelso, O'Shea, Ramostoffer, Rio Salmella, Daney. The list is massive who he's beaten in his first race. I mean, this year the grid is effectively half we've lost half the riders now to Moto2 or pastures new to
Hmm.
the Junior GP Championship from last year and Red Bull
Yeah.
rookies. But Casey's something about Casey. He just gets his head down and he's rapid. He's really, and he's beaten Scott Ogden on his first attempt as a full time rider. But I did see that those two are sort of, yes, guys, I'm not confusing him with the Brits. Don't worry. Yeah, he has got a British. He has got a British parent. Is all I'm saying. But a lot of TNT Sports keep mentioning him as if he's one of our own, which is nice. But they keep saying he's Irish, which is proper. Yes, good. But he's beaten Scott Ogden on his first attempt, and I did see the on the TV. Did you see Keelin? It kept saying, even though the cameras weren't on them, that they kept swapping places. And I was thinking, is that Scott thinking? No, no, it's not happening. It's not happening. But so yeah, we're gonna have some rivalry there potentially. But Scott loves a P12, doesn't he? Bless him. Sorry, Scott. But yeah, no, Scott will do better early in the. Scott always is brilliantly in preseason testing, and has a good start to the year. But this at least look, it's points. It's points. So fair play to him. But I was impressed easily. For me, it's Vader Pratima. He was incredible, absolutely amazing. And I know he knows the track. And it's a climate he's used to. But Vader Pratama, or Pratima, however you want to pronounce his name, I'm hoping I'm doing it right, was exceptional. And I think he led the race at one point. He was certainly P2 at one point, battling for the podium. A P5 in your first ever Grand Prix is outstanding. So well done to him and the Honda Team Major squad, because they have a little superstar on their hands, I think. To be on that pace with the likes of Almanza, well done to him. But Quiles, Peroni, Carpe, and Adrian Fernandez, to be in the middle of those guys, we have an Asian superstar on our hands. And again, I'm so happy with the sport for this, because he's aggressive as well. It's what we want, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. And you just made a really good point there. When we have young Asian talent doing well, it's only better for the sport. We don't need to go into the economics of it and the populations and stuff like that. But it's great to see young Asian talent thriving in the World Championship. Vreda Pratama had such a brilliant race. Like you said, he was P2 for most of it. I'm fairly certain he was leading for at least a
I
lap
think he did.
of it.
I think he did.
But to finish P5 in your first ever World Championship race, folks, I cannot overemphasize how impressive that is. When you look at the scale of talent that's in this championship, that's always in this championship, to finish P5, regardless of climate, environment, or anything like that, that is a hell of an achievement. And I hope it's something he carries with him forever, because Vreda Pratama was very, very impressive.
He was. He really was. And I can't wait to see him race again. Obviously, a neutral track, as we said earlier on, folks. So we'll see what happens in Brazil. David Almanza's first Grand Prix win. Hats off to him. I did think that move was almost worse than, well, I think it was. I thought that was quite naughty. Thing is, it's in the toe. It wasn't side by side. If it was side by side, it was extremely naughty. It probably needed a penalty. But he was. Thing is, Keelers was in the toe, wasn't he, going into that last corner on the last lap? He wasn't directly side by side to him. So in it, when you say it like that, Almanza kind of had the right to block off like that, but I don't think he really realised that Quiles was sort of being forced off. I think his rear wheel was overlapping just slightly with Almanza's, and I think Quiles had to sort of back off a bit. Bit naughty from Almanza, but that wasn't even rubbing. That was just bit of a racing incident there. I think Matt Oxley was perfect. Well, it's like no penalty, correct, no warning, but like a little word in his ear. Just watch it when you're swerving across the track like that, because I thought Keyless was going to have to go onto the grass. I saw it, I was like, oh god, surely he's going to hit the grass. Did you think that was a fair block?
Yeah, I think it was a fair block because, like you said, it was in the slipstream. It wasn't necessarily dive bombing into the last turn. So you kind of have to look at it from that perspective. But then the other perspective you have to look at it from as well is, look, it's Moto 3. It's almost like an entirely separate sport you have to consider it as. But I do think with David Almanza, I think you're absolutely right. Don't formally punish him, but just have a word in his ear to make sure that he knows what he's doing and that it doesn't really happen again. But it was a clever move. I think I'll say that it was a very strategist type of move.
Yeah, very calculated. Just a bit edgy at the end there, wasn't he? Was Almanza, but well deserved, and that's what it's all about in Moto3. It's taken him long enough, but there's still a few other riders in Moto3 that haven't won a race. But yeah, that squad are brilliant. He's got some good backing now. He was good with a Leopard. He left them behind, and Pasha's new, so fair play. I think Keeles it'll have sunk in with him that it's not going to be all his way this year, every race. So, yeah, there'll still be a championship fight, I think, this year in Moto3, definitely. Whether it be Almanza or someone else, I think he will have competition. But yeah, that's it this week, folks. Thanks for tuning in. And Keelin, thanks for joining on. We normally have more notice than this, don't we, tonight? So thanks for joining on such late notice.
Not at all, Jim. It's a pleasure as always.
Brilliant. Well, thanks, folks, and we'll be back next week. We've got a couple of weeks, and obviously until the Brazilian Grand Prix, but we'll be back, and we'll probably do another of the fan experience stories episodes in the coming weeks before then. Okay. So thanks for joining, folks. Bye, Keelin.
Jim, see you all later.
See you later, guys. Cheers. Thanks very much.